Welcome to Local Impact, the show about how you can make a local impact. The Northwest suburbs are filled with interesting issues and innovative ideas. Let's meet some of our neighbors and see what they have to offer us. Dr. Jill Stein, presidential candidate for the Green Party, visited Minneapolis for the Green Party of Minnesota's presidential endorsing convention. We had the great honor and privilege of an impromptu interview with Dr. Stein. Taken during the busy convention, we caught up with her in the parking lot as she was about to rush back to the NATO protests in Chicago. And this is your Green New Deal that you're speaking of, and I know inside when we were at the caucus, people were asking questions about like how would you fund this, and I just think that that's just so exciting to think about bringing stuff back to the people, because the money is there, and I loved your answer, and I would love if you could speak here again about how we would fund these things, and that this money really is, and it is the people of America that matter.
Exactly, and when they say there's no money, what they really mean is there's no money for you, because there are trillions of dollars for wars for oil, tax breaks for the wealthy, and bailouts for Wall Street. Trillions of dollars every year that are being squandered that are not helping the American people, which in fact are hurting us. So we're basically just calling for a change of the paradigm in which the people are in charge, because we should be in charge, and by large majorities people favor downsizing the military, ending the Wall Street bailouts, breaking up the big banks that have been too big to fail so we don't have to keep bailing them out, and in fact establishing public banks like North Dakota has, a state bank, as well as community banks which function as public utilities and which are there to provide the loans for the small businesses, the worker cooperatives, for our municipalities who want to do the right thing, for ordinary families who need the support, for the new entrepreneurs who want to make the investments. We should ensure that we have a finance system which actually supports the real economy, instead of this economy of speculation and fake high finance, which has gobbled up larger and larger sections of our GDP and of our economy, but which basically serves itself and which puts the public at incredible risk. So by breaking up those big banks, we can ensure we have the dollars. Let's downsize the military and bring the troops home. If we cut the military in half, we still have a budget that is 3 times larger than the next biggest spender, which is in China. Right now, we are basically spending half of the entire world's military budget. We as one country are spending more than the next 17 biggest spenders altogether. And much of this not only goes into these wars for oil that make us less secure, not more secure, they make us enemies, not friends, because of the high rate of civilian fatalities and the incredible human rights abuses that take place in the crossfires of these wars, which are illegal as well, and which have not been declared wars either. So we can downsize the military, bring those troops home, and put hundreds of billions of dollars back into our state budgets, into health care, into putting an end to the foreclosure crisis. And as I mentioned, there are inordinate resources as well in taxing and creating an equitable tax system, which the public also supports by large majorities. So if democracy prevailed, we would have a Wall Street transaction tax right now, which would also bring in hundreds of billions of dollars. Just adding up the taxes, if we established a fair tax system, as well as downsizing the military, you have practically $1 trillion a year to fund the things that we need. And then add to that, healthcare is a human right. The well-kept secret here is that Medicare for All actually pays for itself and more. It actually saves us money. And there are 2 big reasons why. Right now, every time you put $1 into your healthcare, you're not actually doing that. You're only putting 70 cents into your healthcare, and you're putting 30 cents into this massive, wasteful health insurance bureaucracy. So by moving to a Medicare for All system, instead of paying for a lot of paper pushing and CEO salaries and advertising campaigns, Instead, your money goes into health care, and that wasted 30 cents on a dollar, it gets reduced to 2 cents overhead in Medicare. That's why we're calling for Medicare for all. And that extra 30% basically goes into funding all of your health care, because you come as a package and you're only as healthy as your weakest link. So the idea that health insurance excludes your eyes, your ears, your hearing aids, your teeth, and dental care, your reproductive health, your pharmaceuticals, and your mental health, which are regularly excluded from lots of plans, is just ridiculous. One last point about health care. Medicare for all ends medical inflation, and it turns out that that is the biggest driver of rising healthcare costs. So if, for example, the state of Minnesota was to pass its Medicare for all plan, which has a unique name, I don't recall offhand what that is.
I'm not recalling what that is called either. It does have one.
But we get in principle what that is.
Yes.
It would begin to save you a lot of money here. It would expand healthcare so that everyone is covered and covered comprehensively, and it would stabilize the cost of your healthcare instead of looking at a 7 to 15% increase in the cost of your health premiums every year.
I think there's other issues too, because I know when Obama talks about the healthcare plan that he's made and that he's going to help the people that are uninsured, but that everyone who has insurance, that you're already good, that we're just going to leave you guys where you are. And my husband has a good job and we have health insurance, so we're fortunate, but I know what the reality means because my husband has changed jobs trying to advance his career, and every time we change a job, it means we have to change our insurance. I don't know who thinks we actually have real choice, because every time he changes a job and we get a new insurance company, all of a sudden we have to change our whole list of doctors that we've gone to. And for me, this happened at a time in my life where we were having children, so I had to switch from one hospital and one OBGYN clinic to another in between the 2 children that I had, and it was really kind of crazy that and people are telling me stuff like, oh, you have choice, and I'm going, whose choice are they talking about? Because it's really the choice of the employer that you get and the luck of the draw of what your employer is offering, and they're not offering you choices of, here, you can choose from whatever one you want.
Right.
And my husband also has talked about wanting to start his own business, but it's the one thing I hear about people who want to be entrepreneurial and start their own businesses is, how would we do this? I would lose the healthcare coverage that I have, and we would have to go out and get our own coverage. And I've not just heard this from my husband, I've heard it from so many people, and I think it's really stunting the small business growth in this country, is just because healthcare is tied to the employer. And I think if we could have a national system, it really would open up so much innovation in small businesses to not have to worry about that. It shouldn't be borne on the back of these businesses, and all of us are invested in this together. So
exactly, it is bankrupting our small businesses, our state and municipal and national governments, and Obamacare, like Romney Care, is not a solution. In Massachusetts, health care, because Romney and Obamacare has no cost reforms. It doesn't reform the incredible boondoggle that health insurance is for the insurance and pharmaceutical companies. There is, it's basically a bottomless pit into which we pour tax dollars, but we don't recover our health. We are not getting healthier because, in fact, we also have a sick care system, not a health care system. And this is where the green jobs and the Green New Deal comes in again, because by providing healthy local food, an active transportation system, pollution prevention in our energy system, where we have clean air, we can bike to work, we can eat healthy local fresh food, which is organic and sustainable, but which is also much healthier for being fresh, emphasizing locally grown fruits and vegetables. This is transformative. This is actually the basics of health. And a very powerful example of that is what happened in the country of Cuba when their oil pipeline went down, which was in the 1990s. And so for a moment, forget the politics of Cuba, because Cuba's politics actually had nothing to do with this. For reasons outside of their country, they lost their energy supply when the old Soviet Union folded. So overnight, Cuba had to adapt to a clean, green energy system, which meant that they could not do any more farming, big industrial farming, because you can't power your tractors or have fertilizer and pesticides and all those fossil fuel things that industrial agriculture relies on. So what do you think happened to their health? Because all of a sudden they had to get out their bicycles and walk, and they were eating healthy, local, largely plant-based diet, and their pollution went away. So in the midst of an incredible depression, their GDP is crashing. People are in poverty, they don't have the jobs they used to have, so you'd think that stress would be just, you know, escalating their diseases and really impairing their health. But the reality is their death rate from diabetes went down 50% practically overnight. From heart disease and stroke, the same thing. All-cause mortality went down 20%. And obesity rates went down 50%. And this all happened within about 2 years. People often say, oh, it's too late for our generation. But in fact, it's not, because there are so many poisons, basically, if you will, that we are regularly ingesting, breathing, a food system which is very harmful, which is being subsidized by our government, which is the affordable one, therefore, that people are therefore eating. You know, it is actively making us sick. And as we transform to a green economy through the Green New Deal, we're going to see our health expenditures plummet. Right now, we spend $2 trillion a year on health care. How much did it cost Cuba to have this absolute public health revolution? $0. It cost them nothing to do what we cannot do with a $2 trillion a year disease care system, making the point that there are just so many benefits here. We need health care for all so that it's available to everyone, and as you say, to put choice back in your hands, not only about who your provider is, but also about what medications you're going to take, or whether you're going to have surgery or medicine.
Or what jobs we're going to have, to not choose a job over health care options.
Healthcare, exactly. So we can do all that. At the same time, we can also undercut our healthcare costs by moving to a real healthcare system through the Green New Deal instead of just having a sick care system.
Well, all of those things, you mentioned so many environmental things as well. It's so much more future looking and sustainable to be getting to people biking more and to local food production.
And walk to school with your kids, you know?
Right. Everything is built so far out, and we're not thinking about what's this going to mean. Is this going to sustain itself the way we've done our society in 50 years from now, in 100 years from now? Well, if oil keeps coming, and if it doesn't cost a lot, and if it doesn't make our temperatures go up like crazy, which all of these things are going to do. So
exactly. Here it is, 90 degrees, you know, in May. You know, this doesn't bode well. If it's 90 degrees in May, what's it going to be in August, you know? And this was a big wake-up call for the world, I think.
We're in Minnesota.
Exactly. That's right. And it wasn't that long ago, you know, that Europe had these heat waves where tens of thousands of people just, you know, perished overnight. And I think, you know, reality is coming home now that we do have an absolute state of emergency on the climate. This again is where Obama and the Democratic Party and the White House and the Congress have really left the American people and the entire world, for that matter, in the dust here, because the Obama administration has not only adopted all the drill baby drill policies of President Bush, as well as given approval to nuclear power plants, which is a whole other threat to our survival and our well-being. But, you know, given the go-ahead to fracking, given the green light for more mountaintop removal, for more coal plants, you know, for more air pollution and more climate change, more offshore oil, opening up our fragile wilderness areas and our national parks to oil and coal and natural gas. So this has been devastating to the climate, and the president also basically put a halt to the international agreements in Durban, South Africa, and basically scuttled all international agreements until 2020, which the science tells us is definitely too late.